अब ड्राइव वाली ने इम्प्रेस करने की कोशिश की तो नए नए कपड़े, नए नए जूते, नया हैट और एक बगी भी ली। एवरी डे ही ड्रोव विद पंचता, और पंचता के घर गए, पंचता को ले जाते थे, घुमाते थे। He was never seen to speak to her when they were walking or driving. The consciousness of his clothes kept his mind busy. अब बड़ा कॉन्शियस था कि भाई कैसे कैसे कपड़े पहने, और ज़्यादा बोलता बोलता भी नहीं था। The knowledge that he could say nothing of, हाँ हाँ, then the knowledge that he could say nothing of the feeling पंचिता was there kept him happy. उसको बस ये लगा कि भाई पंचिता है, वो खुश था, और कोई इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ तो बोल नहीं सकता, उसको तो भेड़ों के और उसके अलावा कुछ पता ही नहीं था स्ट्रॉबेरी के बारे में। He took her to parties and dances and to church. He tried, oh, no man ever tried so hard to be young as Dr. Dry Valley is. He could not dance, but he invented a smile which he wore on those joyous occasions. ठीक है ना, और डांस वांस तो नहीं, पर वो एक स्माइल रखता था joyous occasions है. A smile that in him was as great a concession to mirth and gaiety as tiny handsprings would be in another. He began to seek the company of the young men in the town, even of the boys. वो young लड़कों के साथ भी करने लगा. They accepted him as a decided damper for his attempts at sportiveness, for force, so forced that they might as well have essayed their games in a cathedral. मतलब वो लड़कों के साथ खेलने लगा, यंग लोगों के साथ. अब उसकी जो थी वो आदत, इतना फोर्स था उसका, यू नो, कि आप भाई तुम तो 35 के वो बच्चे हैं, तो उनको लगा रहे बढ़िया गेम तो गया, ये खेलने आ गया. हाँ. Neither he nor any other could estimate what progress he made with पंचता. अब किसी को ये नहीं पता था कि पंचता के साथ उसका कितना था. The end came suddenly in one day, as often dissipates, falls, afterglow before a November sky and wind. Dry Valley was to call girl one afternoon at 6 for a walk. उसे कहा 6 for a walk, जो तो चलते हैं. An afternoon walk in Santa Rosa was a feature in social life that called for the pink of one's wardrobe. एक आफ्टरनून की वॉक अच्छी wardrobe वगैरह पहन करके. So Dry Valley began gorgeously to array himself, and so early that he finished early and went over to O'Brien cottage. As he neared the porch on the crooked walk from the gate, he heard sounds of revelry with. अब वो गए उसके घर में, उन्होंने उसके जो थे अंदर जो थी आवाज़ सुनी. He stopped and looked through the honeysuckle vines in the open door. उसने honeysuckle vines में जो था वो डोर के पीछे देखा. Panchita was amusing her younger brothers and sisters. She wore a man's clothes, no doubt those of the late O'Brien. अब पंचता ने आदमी के कपड़े पहने हुए थे, ओब्रायन के. On her head was the smallest brother's straw hat decorated with an ink-striped paper band. On her hands were flapping yellow cloth gloves, roughly cut out and sewn as a masquerade. The same material covered her shoes, giving them the semblance of tan leather. ऐसे किया जैसे ड्राई वैली की तरह ना उसने. High collar, flowing necktie were not omitted. Panchita was an actress. Dry Valley saw his affectatively youthful gait, his limp, where the right shoe hurt him. अब उसका राइट शूज को हर्ट करा, तो पंचता भी ने उसने भी नकल मारी. His forced smile, his awkward simulation of the gallant air. अब उसकी जो forced smile थी वो की awkward simulation of gallant air. All reproduced with startling fidelity. For the first time a mirror had been held up to him. किसी ने उसको उसका आईना दिखाया था. The corroboration of one of the youngsters calling, "Mama, come and see Panchita do like Mr. Johnson" was not needed. अम्मा आओ, मिस्टर जॉनसन की नकल बना रही है. As softly as the caricatured tans would permit, Dry Valley tiptoed back to the gate and home again. Dry Valley जो था वापस चला गया. 20 minutes after the time appointed for the walk, Panchita tripped demurely out of her gate in a thin, trim white lawn and sailor hat. She strolled up the sidewalk and slowed her steps at Dry Valley's gate, her manner expressing wonder at the unusual delinquency. तो ड्राई वैली के गेट पे देखा भाई है ही नहीं कहीं, मैं कहाँ पे. Then sat out of his door and down the walk strode not the polychromatic victim of a lost summertime. The sheep man rehabilitated. ड्राई वैली ने सारे अपने कपड़े होता है वापस अपने sheep के कपड़े में आ गया. He wore his old great woolen shirt, open at his throat, his brown duck trousers stuffed into his run-over boots, and his white felt sombrero on the back of his head. 20 years or 50 years he might look dry very. उसको कोई मतलब नहीं था मैं कितना बुढ़ा दिखता हूँ, है ना? His light blue eyes met Panchata's dark ones with a cold flash in them. He came as far as the gate. He pointed with his long arm to her house. Go home, said Dr. Dryvalley. Go home to your mother. I wonder lightning don't strike a fool like me. अपनी मम्मी के पास जाओ, मुझ जैसे एक गधे के लिए जो है लाइटनिंग नहीं करती है. Go home and play in the sand. What business have you got cavorting around with grown men? मुझ जैसे बड़े लोगों के साथ तुम्हें घूमने का क्या मतलब? I reckon I was forced to be making a heapol patrath out of myself for a kid like you. अपने को बेवकूफ़ बनाया अपने आप को, तो ऐसे बच्ची के लिए अपने आप बेवकूफ़ बनाया. Go home and don't let me see you no more. Why I done it, will somebody tell me? Go home, let me try and forget it. Panchata obeyed and walked slowly towards her home, saying nothing. For some distance she kept her head turned and her large eyes fixed intrepidly upon dry valleys. At her gate she stood for a moment looking back at him and then ran suddenly and swiftly into the house. Old Antonia was building a fire in the kitchen stove. Dry Valley stopped at the door and laughed harshly. I'm a pretty old rhinoceros to be getting stuck on a kid. And try Tonia? तो उसकी जो तोनिया थी वो खाना उसका बना रही थी. बोला रहे मैं भैंसा हूँ, मैं क्या हूँ, सांड हूँ कि एक बच्ची के पीछे पड़ गया. Not very good thing, agreed Antonia sagely. For too much old man to like muchacha. You bet it ain't, said Dry very grimly. It's dumb foolishness and besides it hurt. बहुत ही बेवकूफ़ी जो बड़ा hurt किया. He brought at one armful the regalia of his aberration, the blue tennis suit, shoes, hats, gloves and all, and threw them in a pile at Antonia's feet. Give them to your old man, said he, to hunt antelope. अपने बच्चे को देना मेरे वाले कपड़े जो नए नए वाले बनाए थे. Just as the first star presided palely over the twilight, Dry Valley got his biggest strawberry book and sat on the back steps to catch the last of the leading right. He thought he saw the figure of someone in his strawberry patch. उसने देखा strawberry patch में किसी को देखा. He laid aside the book, got his whip and hurried forth to the whip लेकर के गया. It was Panchata. She had slipped through the picket fence and was halfway across the patch. She stopped when she saw him and looked at him without wavering. A sudden rage, a humiliating flash of unreasoning wrath came over Dry Valley. For this child, he had made himself a motley to the view. बेवकूफ बनवाया हमने बच्चे के लिए. He had tried to bribe time to turn backward for himself and had been made a fool of. At last he had seen his folly. There was a gulf between him and the youth over which he could not build a bridge ever, even with yellow gloves to protect his hand. And the sight of his torment coming to pester him with her elfin pranks, coming to plunder his strawberry wines like mischievous schoolboy, roused all his anger. I told you to keep away from here, said Dry Valley. Go back to your home. Panchata moved slowly towards him. Dry Valley cracked his whip. Go back home, said Dry Valley savagely, and play. Dry Valley ने कहा तुम वापस जाओ. हाँ, and play theatricals some more. You'd make a fine man. You've made a fine one out of me. बहुत बड़ा बेवकूफ बनाया. She came a step nearer, silent, and with that strange, defiant, steady shine in her eyes that had always puzzled him. Now it stirred his wrath. His whiplash wished through the air. He saw a red streak suddenly come out through her white dress above her knee, where it struck. मतलब उसने एक whiplash लगाया तो जहाँ पे ड्रेस के ऊपर उसको कोड़ा लगा तो एक वो खून निकला. Without flinching and with same unchanging glow in her dark eyes, Panchata came steadily towards him through the strawberry vines. Dry Valley's trembling hands released his whip handle. When within a yard of him, Panchata stretched out an arms. "God, kid," stammered Dry Valley. "Do you mean?" But the seasons are versatile and it may have been springtime. After all, instead of Indian summer that struck Dry Valley Johnson. पंचता उसके पास वापस आ गई. चलो मैं जा रहा हूँ.